Part 1.
Listen to this telephone conversation between Janice Biggins, who works for a house renting agency, and John Anderson. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 6. Listen carefully to the first part of the conversation and answer questions 1 to 6.
Hello, Flagstone.
Oh, hello. Is that Flagstone Properties?
Yes, that's right. Flagstone here. How can I help you?
Hello. I'm ringing just to make inquiries about renting a house. My name's John Anderson.
Yes, Mr. Anderson. What sort of thing were you looking for?
2-bedroom house with garden.
Well, yes, sir, that shouldn't be any problem. Just to let you know that our main areas, the main areas we deal with are the city centre itself.
City centre, uh-huh.
And the north suburbs.
Oh, well, we were most interested in the northern areas, actually.
Right, yes. What sort of price were you thinking of?
Well, could you give me some idea?
Certainly. It really ranges from £250 per month.
Only £250?
Yes, to about £500, depending on a number of different factors.
Oh, what does it depend on?
Well, obviously the quality of the area, and then whether there's a garden.
Oh, well, as I said, we'd want a garden.
And a garage pushes up the price.
Right. Well, we wouldn't necessarily need one. I think about £350 a month would be our limit.
OK. Well, would you like to have a look at a couple of properties, sir?
Yes, that'd be great.
Looking at our files, I think we've got 2 which might suit you.
Oh, hang on. I'll just get a pen. Right.
OK, well, there's one on West Park Road, which is £325 a month.
Uh-huh. Are the bills included?
Well, that one just includes the water bill.
OK, right.
And the second house is in Tithe Road. I'll just spell that for you, OK?
Yep.
Tithe Road.
Yeah, got that. And how much is that one?
That's £380.
380. Is that including water?
No, I'm afraid not, but it does include the telephone rental.
Oh, well, that's not too bad then.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 7 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 7 to 10.
So when would you be available to see them?
Well, I'll be in town next week, say Thursday.
No, I'm sorry, we don't have any availability for Thursday. How about Wednesday afternoon?
OK. That's fine. Would 5 be OK?
Yes, fine. 5 o'clock it is. Just come to the Flagstone offices.
Oh, before I forget, what sort of things do I need to get done to rent with you?
Well, the most important thing is a letter from your bank.
No problem.
And then a reference letter from your employer.
Yes, that's OK.
Great. And then we would need you to give 2 weeks' notice of moving in.
Right, 2 weeks' notice. And what about a deposit?
That's 1 month's rent, whatever the amount is.
OK. 1 month. Is that it?
No, sorry, one more. You will have to pay for the contract.
Oh, yes, I'd forgotten about that. OK, fine. So I'll start arranging those, and
I'll see you next week.
Yes. Thanks very much. Bye.
Goodbye.
That is the end of Part 1. You will now have half a minute to check your answers. Part 2.
You will hear two students called Mark and Gina asking their tutor for advice on the extracurricular project. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 14.
Hi Mark. Hi Gina. What can I help you with?
So we were hoping you could help us with this extracurricular project.
Sure. What is the topic?
Attending business school.
This sounds like a great idea. So you're going to explain the requirements for getting into business school?
Not exactly. It will be more broadly about the experience, the academics, accommodation, and social experience that comes with being part of the business school.
I see. So would your audience be the general public?
Well, we would probably want more to focus on members of the institution. We would especially like to reach individual applicants to the business school.
I see. Now, what form will this information be? You could give a talk to all the summer courses. All you'd need is permission from the course director. Or you could pass out information outside the student union.
Those are both good ideas. What about sending out pamphlets in the mail?
Most college students never check their mail. Maybe you could make a video and show it on campus.
That's a great idea. We'll do the video.
Great. And as members of the business school, do you have an incentive to attract new students? If so, this idea is a great way to do that.
No, the idea actually came about because of how much students like us worry about their studies.
Yeah, when I got into business school, there were a lot of things I had not prepared for, so the video would cover a lot of things Mark and I wish we had known upon entering business school.
Right.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 15 to 20.
What would you talk about first?
The first and probably most important section would be academics.
Good idea. So, would you provide guidance on what courses to take?
We want to focus especially on the approaches professors take, their teaching methods. It is far different than what students are used to in high school and even in liberal arts college.
Good idea. And how long do you think you would spend explaining academics?
We'll probably spend 7 minutes on it.
We also have some ideas for talking about housing, food options and stuff like that. We're not really sure how to tie it all together though.
I think it would be suitable to title that section Accommodation. What do you think?
That could work. We'll definitely describe the different dining options at the cafeteria and then walk students through flats and the grueling process of finding one near the business school campus.
Okay, so we would cover specifics on the cafeteria as well as flats.
I think those are both helpful. We could spend about 6 minutes on accommodation and be sure to touch on those specifically.
Great. Is there anything else you would talk about?
We definitely want to go over the social aspect of attending school here.
Of course. I think it's good to have a little fun once in a while when you're working so hard in school.
I think we are going to introduce new students to the disco that so many upper-class men know and love. Maybe we'll include a few other places too, but that's the main one.
We're also going to invite students to the international evening taking place in the first week of school as a great chance for our large international student population to meet a lot of other new students.
It can definitely be hard to meet people as an international student. I think that is a great idea. You may want to spend slightly longer on this section than the other two.
how about 8 minutes?
That sounds reasonable. So overall, the introduction should take 3 minutes and then the conclusion should take 4, giving us a total of 28 minutes.
I wouldn't rush your introduction. Maybe give it between 4 and 6 minutes. The conclusion, though, can be shorter since it's just a quick refresher of each of the topics. Give that not more than 2 minutes.
Okay, so in total, the video should take about the same time, just more intro and less conclusion?
Precisely.
All right, we're going to get to work on our video. Thanks for your help.
That is the end of part 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Part 3.
You will hear 3 students discussing schemes for work placements abroad. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25.
Hey, Lisa, you went abroad as part of your social work course, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I spent a year in South Africa the year before I graduated. It was a great experience.
I'd like to do something similar. I've always wanted to spend some time overseas and do something useful while I'm there, not just be a tourist.
It can be hard to find good placements, though. And often you have to pay a lot of money for the opportunity. It's not fair when education is already so expensive. And you're working, after all.
Did you have to pay for your work experience, Lisa?
No, I was lucky. I managed to get a place in a scheme called the Overseas Training Scheme, or OTS. That meant that I worked as a volunteer for the overseas organisation, but the scheme paid for my flights and gave me a living wage while I was out there.
That's ideal. How can I get on that scheme?
Well, first you'd have to check that you're eligible. I don't think the scheme is open to people doing any subject. The OTS only offers places to people who are interested in working in the community. You know, like social work, nursing or education.
Well, I study public health and nutrition.
You'd probably be eligible then, Sarah. I don't know about you though, George. Mechanics doesn't really fall into that category.
No, I don't think so.
So, what would I need to do?
You have to complete an application form, which you can download from the OTS website. And then you have to get a member of the college staff to verify that you're a student here and write you a reference.
Who did you get to do that?
My personal tutor. I'm sure your tutor would help you out with it, Sarah.
OK. And how soon after you send the application do you know whether you're successful?
Oh, not for ages. There's a long selection process. They choose a load of candidates, and if you're one of the ones shortlisted, you'll be invited to attend an interview.
Oh, I didn't realise there was such competition for places.
Yes, it's tough. Only a small percentage of applicants are successful.
It hardly seems worth the bother.
That's a bit pessimistic, George. I think it's definitely worth a try. If the OTS can arrange a placement for you and pay you to do it, then...
Well, they don't find the placement for you.
Don't they?
No, you have to do that yourself. You have to contact organisations that interest you and find a placement that suits your skills. Don't worry about that, though. The college can help you. It didn't take me long to find my placement in South Africa. Once you've got confirmation of that, the OTS will book your flight.
It sounds great. I really want to try it.
Well, don't set your hopes on it. As I said, places are highly sought after, and you can't guarantee you'll get one. You'll have to keep an eye open for alternative options.
Before the conversation continues, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30. Now listen carefully and answer questions 26 to 30.
What about you, George? Have you got any ideas about where you can get a work placement?
Well, there's the exploration scheme.
Oh, yes, I heard about that.
I've never heard of it.
I don't think you'd be eligible for it, Sarah. It's designed for people who work in industry or construction.
That sounds right up your street, George.
Well, I've been looking into it, and it looks okay at first glance. But I have some reservations. The application process is simple, and there are loads of options to choose from. But
Oh, so there's no competition for places at all?
I think it's first come, first served. The earlier you apply, the more likely you are to get on the program you like. It's not like the OTS. You're pretty much guaranteed a placement.
So, what's the problem then?
Well, all the placements are in Europe. I really want to go to the USA or Canada.
Even so, there are some great places in Europe.
Yeah, but I'm hopeless at languages.
All the more reason why you should go. It's important to learn other languages. Where did the overseas training scheme allow you to travel, Lisa?
Anywhere in the world.
That's lucky.
The programs on the exploration scheme aren't all work programs, are they, George? Some of them involve work and study.
Yes, but I'm not interested in those placements.
I'm not surprised. Studying in another language, now that would be hard.
I think the study courses are all in English, actually, so that's not the reason I'm not interested. I just want a break from studying. I'm sick of all the tests and assignments. I feel as if I've been doing them all my life.
Well, the work placements sound ideal then.
I suppose so, but the real problem is money.
Aren't the work placements paid?
A few are, but most aren't. And you definitely don't get things like accommodation and flights paid for like you do on the OTS scheme.
I think you should still try for it though, George. It'd be a great experience for you, and it'll probably help you to get a job in the future. You're bound to be able to get a loan from the bank to cover those costs.
Maybe, but I'm still going to keep an eye out for other options.
That is the end of part 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Part 4.
You will hear a lecture about how to choose flooring materials. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
We've been talking about choosing building materials in the last week. Now, a great many factors influence the choice of building materials. You can't make a house of cards, right? And people who live in glass houses and all that. Anyhow, today I'd like to say a few words about flooring. Some artificial materials can be used, like plastic for instance, which offer mixed blessings when used as a flooring surface. On the one hand, plastic is cheaper than nearly any other alternative, short of bare ground. Plastic also does not warp like wood. On the other hand, the best that can be said about plastic is that it looks like wood or stone. However, it cannot replace the real materials. As I have mentioned, I'm fixing up a new house. The decorator my wife hired told me plastic does a great job of looking exactly like plastic. Besides, it scratches easily, fades or discolors, and starts cracking within a year or two. So, if you're fitting out a sleazy hotel or plan to live in a trailer park, go with the plastic. Really though, for all intents and purposes, this leaves us with wood or stone as choices for flooring. Stone and wood are alike in at least one respect. Both go through processing before they can be put to use. Since few of us cut our own lumber or quarry our own stone, this is not perhaps a pressing concern. Still, do-it-yourselfers would do well to remember to buy only properly seasoned wood. Unseasoned wood warps, and a warped floor quickly becomes firewood, and its owner quickly becomes poorer. Likewise, except for dull-hued materials like slate or sandstone, most stone floors are polished before installation. The choice goes well beyond just wood or stone. Each type requires many further considerations. A few special remarks are called for when considering wood. For example, as always, aesthetics, personal taste, and layout all play roles, as well as the type of house or room. Oh, and certainly don't forget the cost. When it comes to cost, a rule of thumb is that the softer and less exotic the wood, the lower the cost. In the US, for instance, pine is both ubiquitous and cheap. Mahogany is imported and exorbitantly expensive. If you're on any kind of budget when remodeling, it's really helpful to remember to go for the softer woods. Aside from cost, there are still lots of different factors that are important in choosing the best flooring for the job. Continuing with the example of wood, one must consider the effects of each type of wood on the mood of the room. When selecting the best wood to use, particular attention needs to be paid to its grain patterns, texture, and colour. In rooms where relaxation or deep thought is the aim, say bedrooms or the study, dark, strong-grained woods are the rule. Here, the grain ought to match the furniture for a feeling of homogeneity. In rooms where activity and motion are typical, the dining room or living room, lighter, finer-grained lumber is more suitable. In such a setting, the wood grain might be useful in offering a contrast to the furniture. This leads to a feel of subconscious excitement in keeping with the room's function. In either case, though, consult a decorator. It is a decorator's job to know what materials to use to fit the function of the room. Though some things about putting together a room are subjective and based on one's individual taste, materials appropriate to a room's function are much more straightforward. A decorator takes the needs of the customer and uses a mathematical formula rather than subjective words. Since feelings vary from person to person, verbal descriptions of wood types tend to be ambiguous. You want the wood you select, not something approximate. And if you do decide to do it yourself, remember that all wood must be treated with preservatives to enhance its appearance and preserve its natural beauty. In the case of stone, or quarry tile, as flat-cut flooring stone is properly called, a new set of considerations must be weighed up. Simple colour aside, the degree of reflection must be kept in mind. This is called the reflectance rate, which is expressed in a number between 0.0 and 1.0, depending on the amount of light it reflects. At one end of the scale is polished silver. At a rating of 1.0, this shiny surface reflects nearly all of the light directed at it. Numbers closer to 0 describe materials that absorb more light. Moving down the scale a bit, we see that plastic that has been painted white has a rate of 0.8, which makes sense. We know that the colour white reflects all other colour, while black absorbs all colour, and plastic itself is a relatively reflective material. Materials that are denser and darker have reflectance rates much closer to 0. The quarry tile I mentioned a while ago has a rate of 0.1. As you may know, quarry tile is generally dark brown and made from clay, so it is quite dense. Of course, there is considerable variation among types of quarry tile because of the hue or treatment of the clay during its creation. Does anyone have any guesses as to what material may have a rate of almost 0.0? We can guess most of these materials are black in colour, but plastic, wood and even stone reflect some light. One material with a rate of almost 0.0 is black velvet. The texture produces almost no shine at all. Carrara marble, despite its white hue, is actually lower in reflectivity than black onyx. In any case, the fact that tiles vary somewhat should not be forgotten. A highly reflective floor would not be suitable in a library. It would be indispensable in a ballroom, should your home be large enough to feature one. Again, a rule of thumb is that light means lively. Since form and material follow function, one should only use the more reflective materials in rooms where the cultivation and expression of energy is important. Bear in mind, too, that most types of stone cost more than all but the rarest of wood. Of course, there is no reason why some rooms of a house should not feature wood floors or other stone tiles. You can even mix the two. A room with wood panels on the walls can have a beautiful stone floor. My bedroom has white birch walls and a light blue slate floor. The place looks like a Russian hunting lodge. Remember though, go with what feels right for you. Good taste and the laws of interior design are the homeowner's servants, not his master. It's only beautiful when you decide it is. I mean, you're the one who lives there, not the decorator, right? Okay, are there any questions?
That is the end of part 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
That is the end of the listening test. You now have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the listening answer sheet.